Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lawyers Who Stream, episode 6, going off the track. So excited to have two awesome guests here today. Couple of amazingly talented Windsor Law alumni. First, we have Erin O'Rourke, started her own law firm on Treaty 3 territory in St. Catharines, Ontario, and also started a podcast with our other guest, Piper, on how to do law differently. Outside the office, Erin enjoys spending time in nature, enjoying a delicious cup of coffee with a great view, hiking, running, or practicing yoga, and camping and traveling to new places to broaden her horizons. Piper Riley Thompson, her partner in this, is a lawyer, entrepreneur, and podcast host living on Treaty 1 land, Winnipeg, Manitoba. In her spare time, you can find Piper doing activities with her mentee from Big Brothers Big Sisters or working and spinning at her favorite spin studio. So, welcome to you both. Thanks so much for joining us, taking a chance on Twitch, doing the stream with me. And since I know that this is kind of a big topic on the show that you like to talk about, why don't you just go over how you two met?
Yeah. Well, I think the first time we met was actually at a party in first year. And we were just, I know where we were. We were like standing in the corner.
I know exactly where we were.
Yeah, it was at the corner of the kitchen. And we like had like this first little introduction, and that's like the first and last time that I remember talking to Piper until we became co-coordinators for Pro Bono Students Canada. That's your memory too, right, Piper?
That's my exact memory. And I remember when Erin and I reconnected, the Pro Bono Students Canada coordinators get hired for the next school year at like the end of February. And every year Windsor has like a Windsor Law Career Day where all the employers come to Windsor to meet people and network. And I honestly don't remember why at the time, but there was a reason I was waiting to confirm or not whether I was going to accept the role. And I was at career day and like I finally was able to decide that I was going to accept the role. And Erin was at career day and I had just told our supervisor that I was going to accept the role. And I was like so nervous to like go reintroduce myself to Erin. And I went up to her and I was like, hi, like, just so you know, like, we're going to be coordinators together. Like, I was really shy. Most people don't know this, but I can actually be really shy. Like, I know it doesn't seem like it. And for the people that know me, but like, I can be quite shy. And so I went up to Erin and she was like, oh, I was hoping it was you. Like, I thought it might be you. And that's kind of how we reconnected. And then we were sort of like briefly in touch, sort of kind of for the next couple of months, not really. But then in the middle of May, we both took the train from Windsor to Toronto to go to the Students Canada annual training conference. And we were alone in the train car. Like, that's not an exaggeration when we say it. Like, literally we're the only people.
Oh, that's wild.
Literally the only people in the train car. Yeah. And it was just like a weird random like Thursday 9 a.m. train or something. And we just talked so much and I felt so bonded to her. And you can really tell we bonded because Erin loves Chipotle and I am a really picky eater, and that's not a type of food that I enjoy. And we got off the train in Toronto and I went to Chipotle with her and I ordered something and ate it. And so I knew we were bonded after that.
Bonded at Chipotle. Awesome. So, so you two had this experience working together at PBSC as co-coordinators. So when did this idea of pursuing this creative project together, the idea of the podcast, when did that come about?
Ooh, yeah, that's another good question. I feel like it was, I know we started seriously talking about it around this time last year.
I was going to say, I saw something, I think it's like close to your anniversary of the original idea, right? Like you had St. Paul where you talked about it?
Yeah. On like May 3rd last year, we took like a free workshop that Erin had found. She actually
I think you found it.
I don't know. One of us was getting targeted ads for it or something. And
thank you, Instagram.
Yeah. And it was like how to successfully launch a podcast. And we took this course like for an hour or something on a weekend. And we were talking about it at length. I don't really remember how this idea started. I was really stressed studying for my retake of the bar. We were both finishing articling. It was like peak kind of like newness of the pandemic. And then we were sort of in transition, both of us in our lives for a while throughout the fall. And then it kind of came to like the new year and we were like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And so we recorded the first episode in January. We launched in February. And this week, episode 10 is coming out, I think, on Tuesday. And so we're so excited.
Amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
And you just passed 1,000 downloads, is that right?
Yeah, I think we're closer to 1,200 now.
Mhm.
So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, wild.
And then what about the topic, like off the tracks, this idea of doing law differently? I know you could talk a little bit about your experience, even because I know both of you sort of had unique career paths and are yourselves doing law a bit differently. So, Erin, why don't you talk a little about your experience and how that sort of fed into the project?
Yeah, so I love like titles that have like double meanings or, like some other thing. And so when we were thinking about different names or like themes for it, just off the tracks like came to us because like we said, we like really bonded on this train together. And then also we both have taken sort of non-linear paths.
Hmm.
Um, in our legal careers right off the bat. So at least for me, I didn't know what Bay Street was before I came to law school or what OCIs were. Like I was so far removed from that I really didn't know much. I truly before law school, I didn't even know that I was going to practice law. Like I would always say to my mom, oh, it's fine. I don't even need to like focus on where I'm going because I'm not going to write the bar exam. I just want the education. I'm not going to be a lawyer. And so going into law school, like I really had no plans to be working in a traditional law firm setting. But I think it's just inherent in the way that law schools are designed is that you really get pulled into it from almost the second that you step onto campus, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
there's so many people that were just already taught, like so many people knew about these things before I did, or, some people came in already knowing that they want to end up in Bay Street. And I'm like, where the heck is this? Like, I don't know Toronto that well. Which street is that again? And so it was really not on my radar. But again, like I said, you just kind of get pulled into it. And so I went through the whole OCI process, had some ups and downs with it. But ultimately, I did end up at a pretty traditional law firm in Hamilton for articling. Even though I did some more like untraditional things in first summer and second summer, by the time I got to articling, the debt's weighing on you. You hear about hire back so many times that you're just like, oh my gosh, I need to go somewhere where I'm going to have a job after, because how am I going to pay these loans back? And how am I going to survive? And oh my gosh, this like massive loan is almost at the end. And how am I going to pay this back? Right.
Yeah.
So I went to the firm. I really enjoyed my experience there. I had amazing mentorship. I really learned a lot. And I truly don't think I would be able to have gone out on my own if I didn't have that fantastic training that I did have in articling. And I think that's a factor of articling in a smaller firm. Even though for Hamilton, it would be a larger firm, but in comparison to the Toronto GTA area, it would be smaller. And then, COVID hit. And I literally the day before, like I say that Rudy Gobert touched all the microphones and the world shut down. I was out to brunch with a partner and we were talking about hire back and proposals for coming back to the firm and all of that sort of stuff. And then the next day the world shut down. And then, it kind of all started unraveling from there. So then our contract got cut short. We weren't hired back and we were just kind of let out into the world. And so I think that's almost when all of these things were happening. Piper and I were in contact a lot. Like, what's going on? What is your firm doing? Are you still employed? Like, are we going to get called to the bar? Like this constant sort of stress that we were facing kind of pulled us together. And just sort of through that, one, we thought about this idea of making the podcast, and two, it kind of helped refocus, almost like gave the time to think about, okay, how do I actually want to spend my days? What kind of work do I want to do? And how can I achieve that? So Piper was really instrumental in helping talk through those decisions and helping kind of pull me out of that sort of like vortex of the traditional law firm model. Because at the time, those options weren't really possible either. Like, hire back wasn't very big. There weren't many opportunities. People were saying, oh, there's not going to be any job opportunities until the fall. And I'm like, oh, my Scotiabank still wants money during that time. Like, what do you want me to do? You know? So yeah, that's pretty much how I ended up going off the tracks. But
and so now you've now started your own firm, and the discussions around that kind of sort of developing around the same time that you were talking about the podcast with Piper.
Yeah, pretty much like in tandem, I would say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, you mentioned Career Day a couple times now, and I also was thinking about how, really, from that moment, from like first year Career Day, it almost feels like you are being pulled in the very traditional kind of direction, and there's very
Mhm.
little support or examples of people doing law that's not in that kind of big law system through the OCIs and articling in a traditional setting and all that. Really have to seek it out ahead of time. I think the more resources that people have to look to, more examples they have, the better. Piper, what was your experience sort of going into law school, of your conception of what practicing law would be like?
I had no conception. I, like Erin, went to law school. I had applied to multiple masters of public policy programs, and I had applied to law schools, and I had accepted a master's of public policy offer a week before I got into Windsor Law. I accepted it like the end of March. I think like March 30th was the deadline I had to accept the offer by, and then I got into Windsor Law, I think like April 6th or something like that. And I spent longer than I would like to admit, hemming and hawing over what I was going to do. And some influential people in my life said, what are you going to do with the master's of public policy that you're not going to do with the law degree? And I think I had gone to a very unique undergraduate school. It's called Mount Allison University. It's in a town with one traffic light. And anyone that but literally, yeah.
One traffic light, one McDonald's. That's a town right there.
Erin's driven by it. But yeah, no, so it was very unique, and it's in a town called Sackville. And anyone that knows Mount Allison and knows Sackville has probably heard the phrase the Sackville bubble. And what the Sackville bubble is, it's like this high pressure environment. And so for me, there was never the thought of taking a gap year. There was never the thought of not doing something important by like our very stereotypical measures of success. And so for me, I was like, it's this master's program or it's law school. And I went to law school. I look back and I was burnt out, and people told me I was burnt out. I had a miserable first year experience, but was able to sort of turn that around and sort of find myself again first, second, and third year. Then I would say I lost myself again in my bar exam year, and I'm back, mostly back. So it's been a bit of a journey. It's been a bit of a journey, and I'm grateful for the people who have stuck with me through the journey. But when I went to law school, like Erin, I had no clue about anything. Like, and I feel so silly saying that, because I come from such a privileged position in life, but like the word cans, like I had never heard that word. Ratio. I had no clue what a memo was. I remember like sitting in LRW, legal research and writing, after our prof explained our first assignment, which was a memo, still not really knowing what a memo was. And I mean, I eventually caught on, but
you figured it out. You got through it. Graduated.
Yeah, I stumbled my way through. Yeah, so law school was definitely like an up and down journey for me. And I am someone who has always thrived in school. In the classroom, yes, but more so I love the outside of the classroom part. So I love the community part. I've always loved that. So in second and third year, I got really involved in the law school community. And that's kind of where like my passion lies, like projects and making things happen and giving back. That's what kind of fuels my soul. And so I articled at a traditional full service law firm. I call it like a mid-sized firm. It was like 20 to 25 lawyers in Windsor. And I was so grateful for the opportunity to article at a full service firm. I really wanted the experience of sort of many different areas of law, even ones that I was like a little bit scared of. Like corporate law scared me, but I wanted to get that experience and like face my fears. And so I'm really glad I did. I moved back. I'm from Winnipeg, and I moved away from Winnipeg in 2012 to go away to school. And I moved back to Winnipeg last summer in July 2020. And I sort of really went off the tracks. I moved back to Winnipeg. I started working at a spin studio. I went back to a retail job I had in high school. And I was like applying for jobs. I was transferring my license. I was starting the podcast with Erin. I became a big sister through Big Brothers Big Sisters, which has just been one of the most like amazing experiences of my life.
That's awesome.
And now I have a full-time legal, yes, thank you, Erin. Now I have a full-time legal role with an Indigenous political advocacy organization.
Oh, amazing.
And okay, and I started a business. Thank you. And I started a business called Ontario Bar Exam Coach, which stemmed from this horrible year I had after failing both bar exams in Ontario. And so, yeah, I think the past sort of 2 weeks have been, to call them a blur is not even sufficient, have been beyond a blur, whatever that might be.
Right.
Because all the students in Ontario are graduating law school, the 3Ls, and also the same week that the 3Ls started studying for the bar exam, the March bar exam results were released. So I was getting incoming consultation requests from graduating students and from people who had failed. And so in the past 7 or 8 months, I launched my business September 29th. I've coached, I think I've just passed, but I need to go count. I think I've just passed like the 100-person threshold. And so it's been a very rewarding experience, a big learning on my feet experience. And I'm so grateful for like everyone who trusts me with this. And I feel really passionate about abolishing the bar exam, but until then, helping people not go through what I went through. So that's kind of my wild journey. I just want to say one quick thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Erin was talking about how you get to law school, especially in Ontario, and you're pushed kind of towards big law. And I think one of the things that Erin and I have talked about on the podcast and just want to really drive home is there's nothing wrong with big law.
Right.
So many of our good friends work in big law. I think it would be cool to work in big law. But what I think is sort of important, and maybe this is just something I've internalized and isn't true, but maybe other people feel this way, who knows, is I think sometimes like when people don't go to big law, or you look at someone and you're like, you could be in big law, but why aren't you in big law? It's like sort of made to like make you feel like people think that you couldn't hack it. And sometimes it's like people just want to do something else. And that's kind of what Off the Tracks comes from. It's like sometimes like people want to try these other things, and it's okay to sort of try a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And that's sort of what we want to highlight. But big law is cool and serves a really great purpose. And I think that there are so many great things happening in big law, and we're just trying to show other alternatives.
For sure. Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned that. I mean, I think that big law, like, there's just a particular, I don't want to say there's like a particular personality because I don't want to stereotype all big law, but there are people who definitely feel like they belong there and definitely like do great things and go well. But when it's held up as the only model of success, is this kind of linear thing that, like you said, if you didn't make it into big law somehow, it's because you couldn't. When that's not the case at all, people choose to pursue alternative career paths. So I think highlighting that those differences is a great thing. And
yeah, definitely. I also think it's really tough too, because like when like someone like me came in and they don't really know about it, but then sometimes I think people really take it very personally or get really shot down if they don't make it into the big law sphere, even if that's not something that they wanted. And sure, I probably was disappointed when things didn't pan out during OCIs. I'm not gonna pretend I was like, yay, I didn't get a job, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a measure of your worth, or it's just dependent on what you're interested in, and if that wasn't something that you were gunning for before, then it shouldn't. I mean, it should never define your worth or anything like that, but definitely shouldn't if that's not what you really wanted in the first place. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, to share my own experience, I'm not going to talk too much about me. I promise the show is about you. But
Please.
the OCI experience. I mean, I felt totally devastated when I came out of OCIs with nothing. Like I felt like a failure, honestly. It wasn't until much later, and it was like people reassuring me that this wasn't the end, that there was other ways to get a summer position and an articling position. When I saw the stats, because my year, I mean, I think my OCI year was just compared to the stats compared to the previous year, it was just like hard, like way fewer people got selected from Windsor. It just was hiring was way down overall. I imagine a lot of people were feeling that way. But yeah, you're really set up to, I think, feel like a failure if you're not following like the traditional sort of model. So I've heard a little bit about each of your careers right now, what you're doing, how you're doing things differently. Piper, awesome to hear about the position at the Indigenous Advocacy Group.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and the
Thank you.
business. So when you're booking guests for the show, what's your process of finding them? What sort of stories you're looking for? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I wish we could say we have a steadfast process for this, but sometimes we found like the best guests just through Twitter, and through posting on Twitter saying, we're looking to, like, we just finished our debt series. Piper posted, we're looking for someone who has this sort of experience. And then, we get all sorts of really neat messages. And if we could, we would have like a bazillion more episodes by now.
The other thing about our show is we originally had planned to have bi-weekly episodes, so releasing 2 episodes a month.
Yeah.
And Erin and I quickly realized after sort of releasing our trailer, our first episode, and maybe our second episode, that if we just released the episodes with people who we have a Google Drive, and we had sort of planned out like who we wanted to invite on the podcast. And Erin said to me one day, Piper, like if we continue it the way we planned it out, we're going to have all of our guests and episodes until October. And that's forgetting anyone that's going to ask us to be on the show. And as soon as we launched, we had a lot of people asking us to be on the show. And we want to have so many different people on the show, but it was a big priority for us to talk about student debt. So that sort of sidelined some of the other guests that we would want to have on or asked to be on. So our last episode about student debt is coming out on Tuesday. Last for now. Who's to say for the future? Yeah. But so we are going to sort of go back and forth between having like series, like how we had a series on student debt, and then we're going to intersperse how we kind of started off, just sort of like one-on-one interviews, kind of like we're doing now with you. And so our process is some of our guests have asked to be on the show, and we've totally welcomed that, and it's been great. Other people we've reached out to. So it's a mix. We welcome having anyone and their experience on the show. We're always trying to share really diverse perspectives. And I think one of the unexpected happy accidents of us putting on this show is Erin and I have met so many cool people we would have never otherwise met. And I don't know why that's something we didn't think about before we launched the show, being like, oh, we're going to get to meet so many cool strangers, but we have, and it's been such a blessing so far. So yeah.
Amazing. Forget where I was going with that train of thought.
That's okay.
Just listening. So you have you find individuals to do one-on-one interviews, and you also have these series kind of interspersed there. Do you have any other upcoming series that you're planning on? Is that all sort of in the document as well?
That is all in the document. So
if it's a trade secret, you don't have to share them here. I'm just curious.
No, I think so. After the debt series, we're gonna have a while, I think, of one-on-one interviews again, and then I think we're gonna take a little summer hiatus, because, not to sound completely naive, but the podcast has been quite a bit more work than maybe either of us anticipated. And so taking a bit of a summer break, I think, will help us kind of recharge and come back in full force for a season 2.
For sure.
And then in the fall, when we kind of launch for the next season, we have a few different series we're hoping to discuss. We haven't fully fleshed them out yet, so you'll have to stay tuned.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. Do you find that your guests will, Well, what's your when you prepare for a guest to come on, are you like doing research on their practice? Are you preparing questions to ask them? What's sort of your pregame for having a new guest on the show?
Yeah, so we have our Google Drive is where like no one hack us. That's where all of our ideas are. But also we have Google Forms that we send out to our guests. So we have like one template that was like for the debt series.
Mhm.
And so we have a bunch of different questions and we have a few mandatory ones. And then if guests feel comfortable, so, you know, we're very comfortable talking about mental health, but other people may not be so open to talking about that, and that's
Sure.
totally fine. So they don't have to put anything in that answer and we won't talk about it. So we kind of
Very
give
smart.
this loose outline
Mhm.
for them to fill out on Google Forms, and then they send it back to us, and then we use that to kind of guide. We don't ask all of the questions that they fill out, but we kind of take the answers that they put and use that to guide the discussion, because you can usually tell what people are really passionate about based on how they respond to it. You'll see where they really light up, even in doing little point form notes. You'll see like, oh, okay, they really want to talk about this issue. So that kind of helps guide our discussions.
Awesome. Pepper, anything to add? You're on mute.
Sorry, that's so embarrassing. That's spot on. And yeah, Erin's totally right. We have this Google form, and then Erin and I take our sort of favorite answers, like Erin was saying, you can see when someone lights up, and then we put the questions in like a Google Doc, which then we have in front of us during the interview. And so we sort of like we do it on the fly. I mean, it's just a fun conversation like we're having right now. And so there is a plan, but we're always very like adaptable to kind of how the conversation ebbs and flows. So yeah.
Yeah, we have it color coded. So Piper is purple because she loves purple,
Oh,
and then I'm blue.
I
And
love
then we
Which is
have,
that.
ironic because we're wearing the opposite colors today.
Yeah, that's right.
but then
Did
we
you
just
plan that or
No.
no?
no. And then we color code it, and then we like move it around, and sometimes we'll be in the Google Doc being like, you ask this next, never mind what. Like,
That's awesome.
so we're usually just kind of switching things around. Like we have a general guideline, but if the conversation's flowing, we're not gonna jump in and be like, no, we're switching questions now.
So we had Carly and Zach on recently, them of Legal Listening, and talked a little bit
Yeah, we
about
saw.
their process. You were there? Awesome. Were you there when
No,
Ant was on?
I literally watched their replay a couple nights
Okay.
ago on YouTube.
Great.
And then today actually I was cooking and I was watching Naomi's replay. So I've been like catching up because I usually actually work at the spin studio on Thursday nights. And so I have never been able to catch it live. And I took off my night at the spin studio to hang out here. So
Oh my
I'm so
God. Thank you
excited.
so much.
No, of course. And so, yeah, so usually Thursday nights I'm at the spin studio and having a time there. And so I can't come live. So I was catching up this past weekend and earlier today.
Yeah, the YouTube uploads have been great. I think that catching a live show, it's fun. I love doing it. I think it's a great format, but it can be hard for people to get like consistently every week. So
Yeah.
keeping up the YouTube uploads has been good. I'm glad that you're watching them, Piper, and the others are too. It seems to be doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. The YouTube is nice too. I also went to check out the YouTubes today to figure out what people were wearing.
It was
I
funny.
think I just realized the other day that this was going to be video, and I was like, oh my gosh, an event to look nice for.
It was funny actually on my very first stream, the Lost stream with Gerteg when we did the pilot. I actually had like a shirt and tie to go for like the kind of late night talk show host vibe.
Oh, okay.
But you kind of need a sports jacket to pull that off, and none of my sports jackets fit me anymore. So I've just gone like, you know what? It's Twitch. It's weird. Let's just do it casual. Like just a button up
awesome.
is fine. When Carly and Zach were on, we talked a little bit about the process, and their audio engineer Ant was also on talking about that, which is a treat because he rarely shows himself or takes any credit, even though he deserves all the credit. Ant, we love you. So they talked a little bit about sort of the software they use and their process. How did you go about teaching yourself podcasting software and getting all this stuff together?
Erin, do you want to take this?
I didn't really. I mean, we tried really hard to understand how to do it. But I'll just put it this way. The other week, I messaged Carly because I was just trying to do a little sound clip for our Instagram. And I was like, how do I cut it? Like, I couldn't figure out how to cut it. Like, just take a little snippet and make a new sound wave. And she FaceTimed me within 5 minutes because she's an angel and showed me how to do it over like screen share. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that was so much easier than I thought it was. So basically, Carly has taught us how to do some of it, but we also um, paid someone, a very nice man named Jamie on Fiverr, who was our go-to guy. So
Yeah.
each episode, we outsourced that because we were trying and it's just not our wheel of genius. That's all I'll say.
And I think what that goes to show is like Erin and I, when we started this podcast, I think in the pilot we joke like if anyone other than our like closest friends who we're forcing to listen are listening. And so I think for us passing that 1,000 download threshold after 8 episodes
Yeah, amazing.
was so, but it wasn't even about like, yeah, it was, we were really proud. And even though it like doesn't sound like a lot, maybe within the grand context of things, we thought it was amazing. And I guess my point being is like, we pay to produce each episode. And it's like really a passion project that we believe in. And because we're literally like putting our money where our literal mouths are. And we pay to produce each episode, and like this project means a lot to us. And so to know that people are listening is really awesome. And I think even if just like somebody hears something that gives them a little bit of comfort, or they learn something new, or they learn about a project or a person that we have on that could like help them in any way, then we've like done our job. So we do outsource the editing for every single episode. And yeah, we haven't completely learned, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, it's totally believe in paying experts to do it. If
Yeah.
it's yeah, and honestly, I had no idea that you were putting money into this project yourselves. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
clear
yeah.
dedication to the project.
Being a sole practitioner too really has forced me to look at how I spend my time. And so there was one weekend where we just moved into this place in Halifax in the fall. And we needed new like plugs on all of them because when we moved in, there was this sweet little grandma that used to live here, and they were all really outdated plugs, but they also had like little like they were all like porcelain with little birds drawn on them.
Oh, okay.
So we needed those off. And so when we were taking them off, we also needed each switch changed and everything, and each plug changed. And, it sat there forever. And we could have done it at any time. Like it would have taken a long time for us to do it, but we could have figured it out. We could have watched YouTube and done it. But then eventually we caved, and I think we paid like $250, and a sweet man came over and did it all for us in 3 hours. And I sat on the couch and drank my coffee and read at that time. And I was like, wow, this is why we pay experts to do what they do.
Yeah.
Because
And when you're dealing, especially when you're dealing with electricity,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I was like, why would I like mess with that? That is not my zone of genius. So
I'm super lucky. I live with a very handy person. He used to do contracting work with his dad, so whenever anything's broken in the house, because our landlord never shows up, so we just I'm like, Jason, can you help?
yeah, that was super helpful. But yeah, definitely we outsource, or else I think I would spend so many hours just like crying by the computer.
Yeah.
It's well worth the money spent on the producing.
Yeah, since I started posting it to YouTube, I have to edit the shows now, and that involves using Lightroom, which Lightroom is great. It's free. It's super powerful. It also doesn't have very standard interface, so teaching myself that has been quite a journey. So sounds like you have ton of guests lined up, schedule, good concept. You got your process down. What's next? Where do you want to take this sort of down the road? Do you have any big plans in the works?
If anyone wants to sponsor us, so we don't have to pay for the production each week, that's cool. We would, in my dreams, I'm an Instagram influencer. And so if anyone would like me to really turn on my influencer voice and my like salesy selling of their product, I would love to use our promo code to sell your product on our show. But other than that, I think we're just so grateful for the growth that we've had. And I think the other thing I would say is, for anyone who hasn't listened to an episode, give us a chance. I will be the first to admit, I have never been super big into podcasts. I listen to a couple podcasts that I really like and really resonate with me. And so tune into our podcast, give just the odd episode a try that you think like will really speak to your soul. We would love and welcome all feedback. And we think it's just like, we love supporting like local creators and our friends like Carly and Zach and your show and other like small local like lawyer businesses and projects that we see, like Elsa Asensio's earrings from The Crafty Lawyer, or Anna Toth's photography. And there's so many others that I am forgetting off the top of my head, but just give us a shot, take a listen, and we hope to continue to grow with everyone's support. But for now, we're just having fun.
I would definitely endorse that, and I would say starting with the debt series, that'd be a great place to go. All those episodes have been really great, really illuminating. It's a great project, and I think that's a really natural place to go. Just see it grow and keep producing it, and excited to see where it goes. Gonna ask anyone in the chat if you have any questions for Piper and Erin. Maybe just drop it in here real quick. Otherwise, you all good to wrap up in a few minutes?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. Wait, Piper, is your influencer voice the same as your spin voice? I have to know.
Okay, great question. So I don't actually teach the spin classes. I'm on the people team. So what that entails, so I'm on the people team. So you show up to the spin class and I'm like, Teddy, it's so nice to see you. You are, and then I check the iPad. I'm like, you're on bike 8. And you're like, oh, where is that? And I say, oh, it's in the back on the corner, blah, blah, blah. And then you go and you get your shoes and you head into the
This is very VIP treatment to get a greeting, get a valet to your bike, everything.
It's a lot of fun. I give you a spritz of hand sanitizer when you walk in. Yeah, it's really fun. My influencer voice is more like, just one second. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight on Lawyers Who Stream. We're so grateful you tuned in. We're so thankful for all of your continued support of Teddy Weinstein's amazing project. If you're looking for more or you're looking to support the show, you can use the promo code if you just swipe up and you'll get 15% off all merch for Lawyers Who Stream. You can get a backpack, you can get a pin, you can get some really sick sunglasses, but use my code swipe up. It really helps when you support small creators. We'd be just so grateful if you just took a little peek. My favorite is the really cozy hoodie.
Wow, that's amazing. I think we should just end it there because I don't think I could possibly do it any better than that. Erin and Piper, thank you so much. Off the Tracks, it's on is Anchor, Spotify. Where else can you find it?
It's on all the things, and if you're curious, you can find us on Instagram at Off the Tracks Podcast.
Awesome. I definitely follow you on Instagram, and I love the clips you put on there now. That's great.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Next week we have no guests. We're actually going to go on hiatus until the 20th, taking a week off to look at some production upgrades around here, maybe get some new graphics going. I'm currently talking to a graphic designer to finally get a logo for the show made, something I've been putting off for a while.
Awesome.
Now that we're getting more serious. But so since we're taking a week off, I'm going to put out the call now. Lawyers, paralegals, legal assistants, law students, articling students, anyone doing something cool that wants to come on the show and just talk about it, talk about your practice, how you do things. You're more than welcome. Judges, I'll take judges, if any like really cool forward-thinking judge wants to come on Twitch. Judges who stream, that'll be the spin-off show.
Like a subsidiary.
Ooh, maybe. I'll talk about this off the air. But yeah, seriously, anyone who knows anyone wants to be on the show, just reach out and find me on Twitter at Teddy Weinstein. You can find these two lovely folks as well at their handles. Trying to point. There we go. Their handles are just under their names. You can reach them there if you want to be on their podcast. Thanks again. Really awesome to have you
Teddy,
both
thank you
here.
so much for having us, and thank you for inviting us. We were so honored,
Yeah.
and this has been so much fun, and
I'm
we're
honored. I'm
so
honored you
excited.
responded.
Oh my gosh, of
I'm like these.
course.
I'm like these two
Um,
are big time now. They're not going to be have time
Teddy,
for
we've
show.
Teddy, we've come a long way from our mandatory business associations project in
Oh
my
my
second
God.
year and your third year, where we put on a whole show.
That
in
was a whole
Professor
production.
Sempi's business. It was a production.
Yeah.
So now we're continuing the production just in a different way. So thank you so much for having us. Erin and I were so excited, and this was just as much fun as we both anticipated.
Thank you so much. All right. That's it for today. See you all in a couple weeks.